I'm joined on the line by Eoghan Corry, editor of Air and Travel magazine. Eoghan, good morning.
Good morning, Pat.
Now, we know that Dublin Airport is going to be incredibly busy this coming weekend. It's a bank holiday weekend. It's the height of the holiday season. And they do have another problem lurking in the background, of which we shall speak in a moment, the Fingal County Council decision yesterday. But first of all, what's in store for passengers this weekend?
Busy weekend, probably the busiest since, most likely the busiest since pre-pandemic. Sunday is going to be the busiest day of the year. The way the pattern works out in recent years and pre-pandemic was that June, just at the end of the school holiday, was tended to be the busiest day. Our record is just over 118,000 passengers to the airport in one day, and that would be in 2019 and the last Friday in June. Sunday is going to come and probably not exceed that, but we're nibbling close to 120,000 passengers getting through the airport, about 350 takeoffs, 350 landings. Busy day, and Dublin Airport would have, had a really grim summer last year, but they have managed to keep security queues, everything humming, operating. They've managed to replace a lot of the franchises, get the food in order, get the toilet cleaning, those sort of things in order. The one area, of course, is the car parks. Car park blue, the long term is still available. Red is full, and the short terms, but they're expensive.
Yeah, and they never resolved that quick parking standoff about whether or not they could buy it and open it up again, and they were refused the rights to even rent it by the owners for some reason for the summer halls. So that is still the 6,000 space deficit.
Yeah, the 6,000 spaces, big loss. The reality is they've 22,000, and they messaged very heavily, don't come to the car, if you can, use the alternative services. And there are over a dozen coach operators who do very good services up at the length and breadth of the country. A lot of people discovering that for the first time. The reality is that it was a bureaucratic obstacle that came up, a couple of bureaucratic obstacles that came up with freeing those quick park spaces. They need to be cleared up for next year. But it does look like we're into August. We're coming to the peak day. It does look like we're going to limp through without a major car park crunch that looked highly likely when we spoke about this in May.
In terms of advice from DAA, is it still the standard arrive 2 hours before the departure time of your short-haul flight and 3 hours before the departure of your long-haul flight?
Very much, and with the added proviso, don't arrive too early. People arriving too early was as big a problem as the latecomers, and that has eased massively. Everybody who's been to the airport, I mean, there was a lot of people going through the airport for the first time in a long time post-pandemic, and a lot of the people arriving too early problem has abated as well. Everybody that's arriving an hour before a short haul is getting on board, and the queues, they're very easily communicable now with the Dublin Airport app, and you can see them around 5 minutes, 10 minutes, very rarely over 15, back to pre-pandemic where over 30 was regarded as a crisis.
Yeah. I recently went through one of the new scanners, and it was terrific.
Great.
I mean, the people who were testing them were just saying, no, don't take out your liquids. Everything's fine. You're in the new scanning lane, which they were trialling, and it really was lovely.
And it's about 6 machines in both Terminal 1 and Terminal 2. By September, all of Terminal 2 will be with the new scanners. That means leave your laptop and your liquid in. It gets up the number of people going through the scanners quite rapidly. The average of number of bags that people have in summer is a little bit lower, and by winter it looks like we'll have that across at least Terminal 2. Terminal 1 might be a bit slower. And the other great breakthrough is transatlantic flights. There was always an extra security area to go through. If listeners would be familiar with downstairs in Terminal 2. to. They are still in the testing process with that, but quite a few of the flight days you go straight down, no extra security, and straight through to the US pre-clearance area. That's been a big benefit, and it's not it's an inconvenience, but the amount of stress it reduces and takes off a family traveling is enormous.
I presume they will still have those random checks. I've been stopped a number of times over the years, and they find nothing in the wheelie, but they just say, yeah, you were just number 17 or whatever it was.
Absolutely.
And you were taken out.
Will not compromise security. Your international reputation depends on how good your security is.
Okay.
Nothing will be done to compromise that.
The decision which was revealed, given to DAA in late July, that they had 6 weeks to address the problem of too many flights at night on foot of complaints. They were found to be actually in breach of the planning permission they had. Now, I said yesterday on this programme when the news broke that it was a Solomon-like decision. They gave them 6 weeks. In other words, get through the busiest time of the year and then you have to have it sorted. What is the implication of this?
Would it be that it was so simple as that Solomon might have taken a sword and everything would be solved? It's a tricky one because the number of flights when the planning was imposed was actually higher than that level. And Dublin Airport argued, and I've been through loads of, written this story many times over 7 years, that they've argued very strongly that we've got our second runway to deal with peak capacity, but we do need that night capacity, and we do need it kept over that level. And they have put forward, the way they put forward straight away was that the way modern airports, which and there are noise regulations right across Europe. Amsterdam has put fairly onerous, even more onerous than Dublin noise regulations in place. But it's usually the noise is measured, not the number of flights. That's a pretty 1950s way of looking at it. And we have two airlines with very modern fleets, which every single new Boeing and every single new Airbus has lower noise emissions. So that's what Dublin Airport have been proposing. They don't exceed the number every night. It was balanced out. And after 7 years, they were given 6 weeks to clear it up. How that'll impact, not exactly sure. There are a couple of things. The wave of Canary Island flights, listeners will be familiar with, they tend to arrive back after, the last wave of them tend to arrive back after midnight. The morning rush has got earlier and earlier over the years because Dublin has got busier. So it's certainly going to impact that. It could impact on the transatlantic flights when the wind gets behind the I-105 coming back. It lands early. But the other thing that is people would not be aware of, because we all just got on board our flights for leisure or for business, is the amount of cargo goes through Dublin Airport. Cargo flights take place during the night, and that's the pharma, software, Amazon, all of those sort of industries. How it's going to work out, what the solution is, I'm not exactly sure. If they have to start cancelling flights and telling returning passengers they're going to Shannon instead of Dublin, or be bussed up or whatever, I'm not sure whether that's going to happen, because this is going to end up with an appeal. It's going to end up in the courts. There is a big issue, though, when it happens in August, when the order comes through in August. Problems in August with everyone away on holidays tend to take a little bit longer to resolve than they do in February.
All right. Some of the texts coming in. Many major airports around Europe have nightly curfews that are even lower than the 65 flights about to be imposed on Dublin, says one. Another one. How could Fingal County Council and Aer Rianta, the DAA, have ignored the European Court judgment regarding night flights from Schiphol? Dublin Airport could end up with no night flights if they do not make better efforts to solve this. That's from Ger.
It's not a new thing. Like the night flights were there always at this level. It's not sudden noise that's arrived. It's not like the North Runway debate. The North Runway isn't used during the night. So it is a changing of the circumstances which Dublin Airport grew and operated under all these years. Schiphol is the most extreme example. There are other extreme examples around the world. Sydney closes its airport during the night, which is a bit dramatic and a very great inconvenience for people trying to check in for a long-haul flight. But is that the way to go, or is there an easier compromise to be worked out? Because we are in a way, Schiphol is not. We are very dependent, not just for our connectivity and for people travelling through the airport, but as an island, we're very, very heavily dependent on that cargo. Yeah. Of course, I'm sure you're going to get a text in now from the West saying Shannon's tongue is hanging out for more business. Why can't some of this be diverted? A good proportion of this be diverted to Shannon. Obviously, if we had anything like the rail networks that the middle of Europe enjoys, Shannon would be a very viable option for most of the population of Ireland. But we don't even have a spur onto the dart from Dublin Airport as it stands.
Well, you could upgrade the Baldonnel runway, bring all the cargo in there, bring it straight to the Amazon warehouse, and off you
Land
go.
is on the Amazon warehouse next door. I know what you mean, yeah.
Eoghan Corry, editor of Air and Travel magazine, thank you very much for joining us.